Hi, Scorpio. We're taking a look at your lesson for 2022 so that you can make the most of it moving into 2023. So I shuffled your deck, I've pulled your cards, and if I were going to title this reading something, we call it The Grudge, because that's literally what you got. Chariot reversed, Temperance reversed, why the Hermit reversed. This year was probably a lot for you guys because what I'm seeing here is like everything that you were upset about through like all time, right? The times that you felt like you gave so much and got nothing back, situations where you feel like people owe you something. It's been really hard for you guys in the last year to figure out where to go, as far as like what does forward movement look like. You know that you have these feelings towards, different people or situations. What do you do with that? How is that impacting your daily life, your happiness? Some people I feel like in your life act like nothing's wrong. Other people are distant because they don't want to deal with the anger that you have or the fact that they have slighted you, right? And they haven't made it up to you. And so I feel like kind of the overall theme of this year has been you identifying how you feel, right? What you feel is owed to you, what you feel should have been done better, and then realizing that that might not come into fruition from the people who have that debt with you, right? And if that's the case, that people are too empty to repay you, or that parent will never realize, the damage that they caused when they were an alcoholic, for example, or, that ex whatever is never going to realize like how abusive they really were psychologically. It's almost like you coming to the realization of like, I will probably never get closure or recompense for so many of the things that I've been through. How do I be okay with that, right? How do I move on from that? What do I tell myself to make it okay, right? So, a very big theme for all of you, because it's almost like this all hit you kind of at once. There is that energy of waiting for people to realize. Perhaps you distance yourself from people and you were waiting for them to realize what life was like without you, or maybe you said something where you're like, hey, this is how this affected me, and you're waiting for that reply. And it feels like a lot of what you're waiting for, it didn't come this year, right? And because of that, you had kind of this aha moment of like, what if it doesn't come, right? What if people never realize how much I loved them or how hard I tried? And so this is really the energy of you thinking to yourself, like, it's bad enough that these things happen to me, right? But it's even worse if I stay in this and I stay at ground zero, because if you're looking around, you're like, everybody else has kind of moved on. Like, not that you need to get over it. That's not what I'm saying at all. But unfortunately, it's almost like you had the realization this year that people can do whatever. And if they never show up and they're never accountable, there's very little you can do about that, right? But sit with it. And then where do you go from there? So this has been a big lesson for you guys, right? This has been a difficult one, because it's like, now what? Where do I go past this? How do I allow myself to move into the new, right? When it feels like there's so much of the old that's still dictating my paradigm, that's still dictating my belief system, right? Or, even the way that I'm moving. This is very much the energy of realizing that you can move forward if you want to, and you'll probably have to move forward for the simple fact that a lot of the situations are so lower vibrational. I don't know that people will ever get into a space where they're really going to understand the magnitude of their actions, right? And I think you probably know that better than I do, because you actually know these situations, what they are, or how they made you feel and how people responded after the fact, right? Um, as far as your love life, this affected you as the Fool in the reverse. So whoever it is that you were dealing with, I feel like you are not allowing yourself to go back to that situation this year. I feel like even if you may have been open to going back to that because perhaps you wanted some kind of like repayment for the way this person treated you. And so, like, oh, hey, well, if they're sorry, if I've been gone for a while, maybe they'll come back and they'll do better. I might be open to that. The universe was not allowing that at all. So I feel like for those of you that are looking back at the year and wondering, why didn't that person text me back? What could I have done different? Did I say something that scared them off or whatever, right? That's not it. The universe was protecting you from this situation because it's time to move on. Okay. If you had exes that contacted you throughout the year and it seemed like perhaps they were going to apologize, right? Or they were going to do something different, and then they very abruptly left your life, that was again the universe protecting you. You may not have seen it that way, but it was happening so that you could keep moving forward and gain some distance from where you were last time you dealt with that person. Okay. Now, looking into how this affected your finances, you got the World. So, very interesting. The reason this happened was the Star. It's very possible that you guys are kind of going through a shift that's still happening, because in realizing that you've been like holding up your own show in hopes that people would be able to make it up to you, you also held up yourself in other areas of your life, right? I feel like as far as work or money, you've experienced some big endings. It doesn't have to pertain to your job. Some of you did leave your job, some of you did not, but the way that you deal with money has completely shifted, right? The way that you view finances has changed. And I feel like that was necessary because you're about to be blessed with a lot of abundance. And I think that that's coming into fruition in 2023, because as you're realizing that you're holding on to these situations in hopes that people will see how badly they hurt you, as you're realizing that that's not happening, you're releasing them, right? And because of that, that's making room for more. That's making room for new. Oftentimes people will damage us, and it's true that they owe us a debt. But at the same time, when we're trying to hold on to that debt, those people don't even have what it would take to repay us, right? So what happens is the universe will pick those people up out of your life. And you may feel like they're ghosting you, but in reality, the universe is trying to get you ready for the person to come in that does have it to give, right? That can repay that old person's debt because they're not empty. And I feel like as far as your money, a lot of the way that you deal with money, your relationship with money, has shifted in the year of 2022. And that was necessary because this blessing that's coming in for all of you, in the past, perhaps you would have squandered it or you would have treated it differently. Whereas now you're kind of having more, I don't want to say accountability, but you're looking at the role that you're playing in a lot of the situations that you've been in. And you're realizing that it's like being that anybody can kind of do whatever, and then I'm left to figure it out, and they don't ever have to apologize and they don't ever have to show up again. I need to be very cognizant of who I'm allowing into my space. I need to be very cognizant of what boundaries I'm setting from the get-go, because it's going to create a mess that only I have to be responsible for, right? And so when this epiphany kind of took place, I feel like that happened with your money, right? You started managing your money a lot different, and you started moving different within your finances, maybe becoming more financially literate, because it feels like a lot of what you're sad about or what you've been waiting for, these are not things that happen in 2022, right? These are creations from the past that you're still kind of looking at and trying to close out and hoping that people would participate in doing that. Whereas now you're in a space to be able to create new. And what I like about that is it feels like some of these lessons that you've been learning over the year, you started practicing them with your finances. So good for you on that. 9 of Cups coming out for your relationship with yourself. Judgment. So this is good. I think that in regards to people, you stopped giving everybody extra chances this year and you gave yourself a chance, right? You gave yourself that compassion or that forgiveness that perhaps you're so used to giving out to everyone else, like trick or treat candy, right? You actually started doing a lot more for yourself. And so maybe you haven't had this star energy come in where you've been blessed financially, but at the same time, you feel as though you've started to pay yourself back for some of the things that these people took that it seems like they're not willing to replace, right? So very good as far as your relationship with yourself. It looks like you're moving into kind of a rebirth. If it hasn't already taken place in 2022, I would say brace yourself because that's happening in 2023. And I'm seeing some really positive changes for all of you, right? As far as your mental, you got 5 of Swords. Your Y is the Hermit in the reverse. So this is you assessing all of the situations and realizing, like, say that partner doesn't come back and apologize, it's their loss, right? You get to be with you every day. They don't ever get to see you again. You get what I'm saying? So mentally, I feel like even though this was very frustrating, you had an opportunity to kind of put a new spin on the narrative of these situations, right? Rather than feeling like you were used or played, you view it or can view it as like these people played themselves. You know, that will never happen to me again. And I feel like, in all honesty, for those of you who are waiting for like that apology, right, or that acknowledgement, it's probably gonna come next year. But I don't think that just because it happens, it's meant for you to reunite with people who treated you badly, right? I think that this time where it feels like you were kind of on a pause, it was so that you could move into a different space, because eventually these apologies will come. But the universe doesn't want you to keep recreating these situations. And I think in the beginning of 2022, or even in the middle, those apologies or that acknowledgement would have meant so much to you that you would have been willing to try again with some of these situations that I'm seeing. Whereas now that we're into 2023, it's just like, you know what? I don't care. I need to cut my losses, right? And that really was the point, so that you could get out there, you could live your life, you could start replacing some of this old stuff with new things that match your vibration. But also because all of this old stuff is going to come back around. But you just can't be in the same place you were waiting for it when it comes, right? You have to be miles down the road. And then when you look back, you're going to view it so much different than you would have before. And that really will break you out of some of these old patterns that it feels like we're wrapping up in 2022. Unfortunately, it didn't wrap up the way that you wanted, but I feel like by the time you get what you want from these people, you're not even going to want it anymore, okay? So Scorpio, this was your message for 2022. I hope this is able to help you in 2023 when some of these old situations come back into your life, because I'm seeing that they will. Hopefully by then you will have created something new for yourselves and none of that will resonate with you anymore. I will be doing your 2023 forecast soon, so if that's something you're interested in, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, and I will speak to all of you again. Bye.